This is easily the most expensive thing I've bought for a video, and it doesn't really surprise me that the first Apple product I buy handily takes that crown. But anyway, in today's video we're going to talk about gaming on this very expensive laptop, because I think it may fix some of the problems I had with my first gaming experience on a MacBook not too long ago. I think it may, we'll find out. But first, a word from today's video sponsor that's going to help me financially recover from this MacBook. I hope. Today's video is sponsored by a Deepcool AIO, the LT520, but now available in white. If you're the type of person that color codes your socks to your eyebrows, you can now match your fancy Deepcool AIO to your pet Arctic fox. Even the fans will match. And if you have a real hot CPU and you think 240mm won't cut it, there's also a 360mm variant. So with its ease of installation, great performance, and sexy looks, check out the Deepcool LT520 in white using the link in the description below. Thank you Deepcool for sponsoring today's video. Now, I broke my MacBook gaming virginity with this 13-inch M2 MacBook Pro, an experience that left me much colder than I was expecting. Oh wow, it even struggles to run Dota, which I didn't know was possible. Aside from the fact that there's like half a game that runs properly on an Apple Silicon MacBook, the main thorns in my side was a display that has the input lag and motion rendering of an Etch-a-Sketch, and that connecting an external display to that MacBook using a dongle is an extremely buggy and frustrating process. So with a display that makes gaming feel like you're swimming through maple syrup, it just wasn't a good gaming laptop, which is why I thought this 16-inch MacBook Pro may solve this problem, because for your massive additional outlay, amongst other things, you get a 120Hz display, which should be good for gaming, right? Well, let's find out. Now this is the base model of the new 16-inch MacBook Pro. Now I didn't want the base model, but we'll talk about why I refused to spec it up later in the video, even though I wanted to. Ooh, that's a lovely tear. Yep, there's that neutral clean smell, very nice. Ooh, it's a heavy boy. As is always the case, the packaging is immaculate. And then down here it says designed by Apple in California, which somehow never stops being funny to me. But I guess built by Foxconn in China doesn't quite have the same ring to it, so you know, I guess it makes sense. Ooh, that's nice. Yo, Apple really knows how to make good packaging, don't they? Open that up just like that, and then in here we've got like a nice braided power cable, cool. And then over here we've got our metal MagSafe connector. This power cable situation really gets the juices flowing. It's pretty dope. Ooh, you know it's fancy when the corners of the paper is rounded. Oh, it's a diagram of what the two ports on the laptop do. Cool. Ooh. Oh, never mind, look, I found the mention of it being assembled in China, in the smallest letters I've ever seen at the base of the power brick packaging. This just makes me feel like at some point there was a boardroom meeting at Apple with like 50 high-paid executives in pastel color shirts discussing the least conspicuous place to put the legally obligated assembled in China text. Yeah, that'll do a good job of it, I'd say. And then this is our 140 watt USB-C power adapter. It's nice and small. Okay, so now I've washed my hands for the 17th time and I think I'm finally ready to touch it. Ooh, this looks exciting. Almost dropped it. Holy f***, what a magnificent device. Damn. First impressions are something Apple does better than anyone. This laptop really grabs you by the crotch. It's very impressive that they can mass produce a laptop with this kind of build quality. The panel gaps are remarkably even. The material quality is amazing. Even the screws that hold the bottom panel on are beautiful. Those Foxconn workers really know how to make a nice laptop. Damn. But the moment it turned itself on, I noticed a problem. What? No way this is what the Okay, it has to be not running at 120 Hz. Otherwise, that is a complete outrage. That's what it looks like? 60Hz looks and feels exactly the same. Look at that ghosting. What? Now this is something that's very difficult to accurately capture on camera, but let's do a comparison to give you an idea. This is a video frame of movement over a similar color palette on the not particularly special display of a gaming laptop I paid $500 for. And this is what similar speed of movement looks like on the ProMotion MacBook display. And this doesn't even illustrate the input lag, which is very noticeable on the MacBook, even on the desktop. But we'll talk more about that when we get to the gaming section. Now, I want to clarify, I'm not saying the MacBook has a worse display in it than the little Asus. That would be ridiculous. When it comes to colors, brightness, contrast, and sharpness, the MacBook display is nothing short of physically arousing. But to achieve this, it sacrifices the two arguably most important characteristics for a good gaming display: input latency and motion rendering. Luckily, it's got a dedicated HDMI, so that could help one of the problems at least. I'm really glad I didn't spec it up because, again, it's not the internals that are going to be the problem. On that note, let's crack open this beautiful laptop and have a look at those internals. Well, this is terrifying, although one thing that is already promising about this bottom plate is that it kind of ends over here and it doesn't wrap around halfway through the I/O in the way that a lot of Windows laptops' bottom plates do. So it may actually be less annoying to get off, but I am ready to eat those words. It does feel like there's a little bit of glue. And after quite a bit of struggle, and with the fear of accidental Hulk smash setting in, I decided to refer to a teardown video which taught me about the clips. Oh! Oh! Ooh, that's not nice. But I was the only one that came away from that experience injured. I keep hurting myself with tech stuff lately. Look at that. Ooh, it smells very neutral clean in here. That's where most of the neutral clean smell lives, actually. Again, it is a beautiful thing. Majestic undercarriage aside, in all fairness to Apple, according to iFixit's repairability guide, this laptop's not a complete train smash. Important things like the battery are relatively easily replaceable. The problem comes with upgradability. Apple just loves to solder things like storage and RAM down, almost like they're scared you're gonna steal it. And then they charge you what I can only describe as an extortionate amount when you spec these up while buying them. Which I think is a good point to explain why I only got the base model. While speccing up the laptop, I wanted to go for this M2 Max upgrade to get the additional 11 GPU cores because gaming, right? And I thought that the $250 upgrade was steep, but I was willing to pay it. However, when you click on it, the price goes from 3,200 Canadian dollars to almost 4,000 Canadian dollars. Now, I'm not very good at math, Apple, but I'm pretty sure that 3,200 plus 250 is not 4,000. Now, it's not really difficult to see why this happens. If you just scroll down, you'll see that Apple forces you to upgrade to 32 gigs of memory for the M2 Max upgrade, which costs you 500 Canadian dollars for 16 gigs of RAM. And at that point, I just refused. There is no way I'm paying $500 for 16 gigs of RAM I don't even want so that I can get 11 extra GPU cores. This is just madness. That smearing always catches me off guard. Anyway, in terms of game library, it looks pretty much exactly the same as it did 6 months ago when I was on here last. A selection of games that are primarily played by undersexed middle-aged people on their iPads. In terms of top paid game, we've got Resident Evil Village, which is quite funny. It's like the only game they ever talk about. Like, every time at a press conference they need to mention gaming, they wheel out Resident Evil Village like we're all supposed to be super excited by that. Oh, but we've got Limbo on here, which, as we all know, is a game that you definitely need $2,500 worth of hardware to play. Oh, I see Civilization still $5 more than on Steam, for some reason. Actually, let's start off with some Civilization 5. That ran very well on the little Berber MacBook. Now, for a more relaxed game like Civilization 5, gaming on a MacBook is really nice because of the very efficient Apple Silicon. I don't even think the fans have turned on. It is extremely quiet, which means you can comfortably game with the fantastic speakers on this laptop, which is not something you can do on a normal gaming laptop, which would sound like a Harrier taking off at this point. And considering that there isn't much movement going on in Civilization 5, the motion blur isn't that much of an issue, and you don't have to react to anything quickly, so the input lag, though noticeable, isn't really problematic. But for $2,500, a nice Civilization 5 experience isn't quite enough. So let's try some Resident Evil Village, which should run very well considering how proud Apple is of it. Application, you must first sign in. I am signed in with my Apple ID. Signed in as, and then there's my name. Yeah, but it is signed in. What do you mean? How do I sign in more than I'm already signed in? Account settings. Which wasn't a great start to trying out Apple's showpiece game, which is apparently a reasonably common problem. So this is a known thing, that the one game that Apple brags about being great on Apple Silicon just doesn't work for some reason. You've just gotta love that lack of bugginess on macOS. And after ages of struggling, the only way I could get it to work was by creating a new user on the MacBook specifically for Resident Evil Village. But at least I can finally play the game, aside from another quick problem. I'm confused, it just said that it was connected. Will not reconnect. I forget it. And then it instantly reconnects. Why has nothing worked on it yet? But apparently it just wanted to gaslight me a bit because eventually it just worked like nothing happened. So finally we can play the game. So that only took 4 attempts. Very good. I don't know, this is definitely a horror game. This is the most terrifying thing I've ever had to do in a video game. Oh, there's no button to drop it, so we're good, okay. That motion rendering is so wild. But aside from the motion rendering, once I dropped from the very high native resolution of the MacBook down to 1080p, it started running pretty well. It is so dark, I can't see anything. The mini LED is too good at producing contrast. It actually has a similar problem to OLED. But aside from Resident Evil being very dark, I was quickly getting invested in the plot. Package secure, Nohal. He says about the baby as he hands the baby over. And once we got outside at 1080p with this expansive vista, the combination of the great frame rate, beautiful visuals, and complete lack of noise, the MacBook was making a compelling argument for it being a good gaming laptop. Until actual gameplay happened. So last night, I took the laptop home to do some gaming on it, and the zombie battles leading up to this point was like the hardest thing I've ever had to do. You can see here that there's a bit of a delay between when you do the input and things happen on the screen. So you just couldn't react quickly enough to what the zombies were doing, and it meant I just missed all of my shots. It was really crazy. Although I will say it is way better since I turned camera acceleration off. With that on, it was crazy bad. Whereas now, it's only pretty bad. And oh, that motion rendering is rough. It's like there's heavy motion blur built into the monitor. And that smearing is just a one-way street to eye fatigue, even for my seasoned gamer eyes. Which really makes me want to plug this into a decent gaming monitor. So let's try out the HDMI port. Wow, when switching over to this display, you can really tell how good the colors are on that MacBook display. Like, this looks so much worse. And this isn't even a bad monitor. But again, there was a problem. Wait a minute, why can't I set it to above 60 Hz? It eventually let me set it to 240 Hz, but only once I changed from the default resolution to a different resolution, and then back to the default resolution for some reason. Now I use Dota 2, a game that I play a lot, to gauge the difference between the built-in display and the external NZXT monitor. And again, on the built-in ProMotion display, it felt like swimming in treacle. For any kind of competitive game, you just can't use the built-in display on this laptop. But once I switched over to the NZXT monitor, it felt like I was gaming on a completely different system. I did have to drop the settings to potato levels to deal with the stutters, but now it was playable. I actually won a ranked game using the MacBook. So when all's said and done, putting aside game optimization and what you can and can't play on the MacBook, which in my opinion, even if they fix all that, this MacBook won't be good for gaming because its display isn't good for gaming, and that's kind of an important part of it. They really need to fix the Apple smear. It's a problem I've had on all of their non-OLED devices. Either way, I still stand by my conclusion in the previous Apple video. I don't mind that Apple treats gaming like it's a suspicious package at the airport, because Apple buying game publishers is my idea of purgatory. And with that, until the next video, bye bye.